Hello everyone, welcome back to the GRE Math review. Today we'll be talking about percents. Alright, so you probably all have come across at some point percents. So percents are what? You just have your number, and next to your number you have this sign which is called a percent sign. This is basically nothing more than your number, 35 in this case, divided by 100. So percent sign signifies that your number is being divided by 100, which when you do the division in decimals, that comes out to be 0.35. Right. So pretty simple. Percent means that you have to divide the number by 100. Let's look at some common percents. So 25%. Okay. Again, take out the percent sign, divide the number by 100. And if I simplify this, this comes out to be 1/4, which is 0.25. And the common percent you might see is 10%, which is 10 over 100, which is equal to 0.1. Okay. What about 100%? Well, 100% is just 100 over 100, which is 1. Okay. What about 250%? Well, that's 250 over 100. That's equal to 2.5. Right? Okay. So just like from percents you can go to decimals, it's good to memorize some of the conversions from decimals to percents. Okay. So the most common one that everyone probably knows, 0.5, which is 1/2 in fractions. This is just your 50%. Then 0.333, which continues on, that's 1/3. In percent terms, that's 33 1/3%. So this is the mixed fraction. Remember we did last time. Hopefully you know how to make sense of these mixed fractions. Then you can have the 1/4% we just looked at, 1/4, that's just 25%. Then you can have 3/4, 0.75, which will be 75%. And the fraction with 10 in the denominator, 1/10, is 0.1, which is 10%. And you can have 2/10, which would be 20%. 3/10 would be 30%, so on till you get 10 over 10, which would be 100%. So these are some of the common decimal to percent conversions that would be good to know at the top of your head. So memorize. Alright, let's look at a common way percents that might be tested on GRE. We'll do an example. So find 25% of 32. Alright, so we know when you take out the percent sign, that means divide by 100. Okay, of always means that you have to multiply and 32. So you want to find 25% of 32, which comes out to be this quantity. Okay, now you can do the simplification. 25 times 1, 100 times 4, and then 4 times 1 and 4 times 8 here, giving you 8. So 25% of 32 is 8. A shortcut for this would be, if you remember that 25% is just 1/4. So if you know that, then you can go directly find 1/4 of 32, which is 8. Okay, so sometimes it helps if you know these conversions at the top of your head. Alright, so let's look at some of the common ways GREs might test you on percent. So first is here find 45% of 200. So this is very similar to what we just did. Whenever you have a question like this, you're trying to find percent of a particular, some percent of a particular number. Instead of the percent sign, you divide the number by 100. For off, you always put a multiplication sign and then put the other number there. So here we're doing 45% of 200. And then simplify. 100 times 1, 100 times 2 is 200, and you're left with 90. Okay, so 45% of 200 is 90. The second way percents would appear is like this. 90 is 45% of what number? So here you have to find this unknown number whose 45% is 90. So what you have to do right away here is, let's say your unknown number is x, and set up an equation. So 90 is, so I'll say 90 is equal to 45% of the unknown number x. Okay, now the goal is to find x. So similar process, 45%, I take out the sign of percent, I divide by 100, I'll have 0.45, off goes away, giving me a multiplication sign, I will have 0.45x. Now to solve here for x, I can divide by 0.45 on both sides. This 0.45 and 0.45 cancels. 90 divided by 0.45 will give me 200, and that's what my x comes out to be. So the number whose 45% is 90 is x. Lastly, you might see GRE asking you 90 is what percent of 200. So this is very straightforward. Whenever you are trying to find how much is something a percent of, you take that thing, 90 in this case, divide by the number whose percent you are trying to find, and times it by 100. Okay, so you're trying to find 90 is what percent of 200 here. So simplifying here, 100 times 1, 100 times 2 is 200, then 90 divided by 2 gives me 45%. So 90 is 45% of 200. Alright, let's do some example problems now. Alright, so here we have Charlie gave 20% of his baseball cards to Kenny and 15% to Polly. If he still had 520 cards left, how many did he have originally? Right, so Charlie gave Kenny 20%, Polly 15%. So in all he gave away 45% of his cards. Okay, and after giving 45%, he's still left with, well, 65%, right? 100 minus 45 is 65%, and this 65% corresponds to 520 cards. So here it says if he still had 520 cards left. So after giving out 45%, he still had 520 left. So we want to find how many did he have originally. Okay, so this is a question type where you know 65 of a particular number is 520. So let's say he had x originally, right? So you know 65% of x is 520. So similar process, take out percent, I have to divide by 100, which gives me 0.65 times x here equals 520. Okay, so x equals, if I divide by 0.65 on both sides, I'll have 520 over 0.65, which comes out to be 800. Okay. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, a quick way to do problems like these, if you know something is a particular percent and you know that percent value, so here we know 65% of a number is 520 and you want to find the whole, you basically have to divide 520 by 0.65, which is exactly what we did over here, right? But instead of going all through these process, save time, go ahead, divide by 0.65, and you will get the entire 100% value. Okay, so you know 65% value by doing this division right away, you know the 100% value. Alright, let's do another one here. In 1985, the populations of town A and town B were the same. From 1985 to 1995, the population of town A increased by 60%, while the population of town B decreased by 60%. In 1995, the population of town B was what percent of the population of town A? These type of questions start off by assuming something. So here we know town A and B had the same population in 85. So let's say in 85, population of each town was 100. Now town A increases population by 60%. Okay, so 60% of 100 is 60. You add that to 100, it went to 160. What about town B? Well, town B decreases population by 60%. So this was addition 60%, B went down by 60%. So in this case, you'll have to take 60 out from 100 and you get to 40. Okay, so now you have the populations in 1995 for both the towns. In 1995, the population of town B was what percent of the population of town A? So you want town A population over town B, and you want to find the percent here. So town A, oops, sorry, you have town B here and town A here. So town B we know is 40. Town A is 160, and you want to find percent, so multiply by 100. And here, if you see, this is 1 times 40, this is 4 times 40. So 1/4, which is 25%, which is A, right? Alright, next we'll look at using percents to express increase and decrease in quantities. So we have all heard how prices of some things go up or down. So let's think about price of gasoline or petrol that increases by 15%. So we hear something like this in news all the time. 15%. So what does this mean? How is this 15% calculated? So the simple formula for increases and decreases in percent terms. So for increase, percent increase, what you do is you take the actual increase and you divide it by the original amount, and to get percent you times it by 100. For percent decrease, take the actual decrease and again divide it by the original amount times 500. Sometimes book will also write percent here just to denote that the end result is a percentage. Okay, so putting numbers here, let's look at an example, and also note that in both cases the denominator is original amount. This is very important, and frequently GRE will test you on this. So let's say the price of petrol goes from 100 to 150, and then maybe it goes from 150 back to 100. So what are the percent increase in this first case, and what's the percent decrease in the second case? So let's do the first case first. So I want to find the percent increase, the actual change. So I need to know the actual increase. Here is 115 minus 100, 50, over the original amount, which was 100, times by 100. So 100 and 100 cancel, and I get 15% increase. So this increases 15%. What about the next percent? Going from 115 to 100. What's this decrease? So percent decrease, similar formula. Now we'll have the decrease amount, which is 15, over the original amount. In this case, the original is 115. Okay, times by 100. So if you do this on the calculator, you'll get about 13%. So 13% here. So here's the interesting fact. Going a similar amount of increase, 15 rupee, 15 increase, give you 15% increase, but a similar decrease, so again the decrease is just 15, it gives you different percent decrease. So be careful about that, because you're always dividing by the original amount, so your percent increase and decrease can be actually are different. Let's look at a couple of GRE specific problems. So here's the quantitative comparison question. Okay, so we have store B always sells CDs at 60% of the list price. Store A sells its CDs at 40% of the list price, but often runs a special sale during which it reduces prices by 20%. Quantity A, the price of a CD when it's on sale at store A. Quantity B, the price of the same CD at store B. So in questions like these, you always have to start off assuming something. So assume, the best thing to assume over here is the list price. So let's say the list price is 100. Now store B, well, what it does is that it sells at 60% discount. So if the list price is 100, 60% discount is 60 and the price is 40. So this is what we have in column B, the price of the same CD at store B. For store A, well, initially it gives the 40% of the list price. So 100, so 40% of 100 is 40. 100 minus 40 would give me a price of 60. But then on sale, it gives an additional 20% off. And this 20%, let's calculate. So you have 20% of 60. So 0.2 of 60. If you do this on the calculator, this will give you 12. So 60 minus 12 will give me 48. So quantity A, the price of CD when it's on sale at store A is 48, which is bigger than quantity B. So the answer here is A. One thing to note here is that, okay, store B was selling at 60%, store A was selling at 40% and then 20% off. 40 and 20 are 60, so you might think that the price that store B charges and store A charges should be equal, so the answer should be C. But don't make that mistake. Do pick the numbers, do the problems in percents. Many times things work out differently. Okay, so don't try to get tricked by GRE here. Let's do another problem. From 1989 to 1990, the number of applicants to a college increased 15% to 50-60. How many applicants were there in 89? So from 89 to 90, there was 15% increase to 50-60, 5,060 applications. The question is, how many applicants were there at the start? Now, before we go and jump into this, it would be interesting to know, when something increases by a particular percent, how can you represent that by a number? So here you have something and increase by 15%. One way to think about this is that initially you were at 100%, right? And now you add 15%, so you are at 115%. And this in decimals is 1.15. Okay, so this is an important concept. When you increase something in decimals, when you increase something, you can write it in this fashion, in decimal. Similarly, let's look at another way. If you increase something by 25%, I can write it as 1.25. Okay. If I increase something by 50%, I can write this as 1.5. Alright, back to the problem now. So I know this 50-60 represents what? It represents the number I get after the 15% increase. So what I can simply do is I can say, okay, 50-60 is 1.15. So if I divide that thing, I'll get my original 1989 value back. So this number gives me 4,400. Right? You can also think about this fraction as basically you're dividing something so that you get what one of that would be. So you know 1.15 of that is 50/60, but I want to know what 1 of that is. So when I get this answer, this means 1 of that is 4400. 4400. Let's do a couple of more examples of GRE type percent questions. Alright, so here we have, on a test containing 80 questions, Eve answered 75% of the first 60 questions correctly. So you have in total 80 questions, and Eve answered 75% of the first 60. 75% of 60 is correct. So let's quickly calculate this. 75% is 3/4. So I'm going to calculate 3/4 of 60. This will give me 4 times 1, 4 times 15, 15 times 3 is 45. So you got 45 correct out of the first 60 questions. Right? What percent of the other 20 questions does she need to answer correctly for her grade on the entire exam to be 80%? So she wants the grade on the entire exam to be 80%. So 80%, what's 80% of 80 questions? So 80% is 80 over 100 times 80. This 0 cancels this 0, this 0 cancels this 0. 8 times 8 is 64. So to get 80% on the exam, she needs 64 correct. Well, she already got 45 correct. So 64, I subtract 45, I get 19. So she needs to get 19 more correct out of the 20 questions left. So that in percent terms would come out to be about, so this 0 cancels with this 0, 2 times 1, 2 times 5 will give me 10. 19 times 5 is 95%. So she needs to get 95% correct of the remaining 20 questions to score an 80% on the entire exam. Right? Let's do another one. This is a quantitative comparison question. After Ali gave Lior 50% of her money, she had 20% as much as he did. Okay. Quantity A, 75% of the amount Lior had originally. Quantity B, 150% of the amount Ali had originally. So we are looking at the original amounts that both these persons had. How about we say, start with Ali having $100. Okay. So Ali had $100 to start off. The question says Ali gave 50% of her money to Lior. So if I take 50% of this amount, I'll get $50. Okay. After Ali gave Lior 50% of her money, she had 20% as much as he did. So now this 50 that Ali has left is 20% of what Lior has at this time. Okay, so basically what you're trying to find is 20% of what number. Let's say that number is X, that's the amount that Lior has, is 50. So solving this, 20%, I can write it as 0.2x equals 50, and dividing by 0.2 on both sides, I get 50 over 0.2 on the right side, and this would come out to be 250. So Lior had 250 after Ali gave her 50% to Lior. Okay, so that means Lior must have started with 200, since 50 of this came from Ali. So starting off, Lior had 200, Ali had 100. Now the question says in quantity A, 75% of the amount Lior had originally. So I want to find 75% of 200. So 75% is 3/4 of 200. 4 times 1, 4 times 50. So this is 150. So quantity A is 150. Quantity B, 150% of the amount Ali had originally. So 150% of 100, which just comes out to be 150. Cool. So both A and B quantities are equal. Correct answer is C. So you see, a lot of percents involved, but as long as you keep track of everything, make your assumptions properly, you can go back and do as many percents as you want, but things will work out eventually. Right. So hope you had enjoyed this lecture on percents. do the practice questions in the book on page 277. Okay, so this deals with percent problems. If there are any questions, anything that's not clear, do write comments below. Thank you.